Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so we talking about Dame Lillard and the other team that I could not remember that has been rumored to be interested in Dame Lillard. Now, I said the Raptors a million times. Thought I was doing something when I said the Raptors again. No, that was the same team I initially said in that video. But in this video, I understand that the Chicago Bulls are the other rumored team that want to look into getting Dame on their own squad. Not facilitate like Phoenix, but actually land him. I checked out the trade tracker, or rather not the trade tracker, the trade machine, and tried to match numbers, and it wasn't hard to do. Zach LaVine's at 40 million, Dame's at 45. You could swap them and add maybe one more piece just to make the numbers work. But if I'm the Bulls, to tell you the truth, I have no interest in moving on from Zach LaVine. If I'm trying to win a championship, I'm bringing Dame and Zach together. I'm going to try to keep DeMar DeRozan, and it's everything else that I'll probably be willing to part with. Problem is, I don't know that you can do that and make Portland whole. Vucevic is at 19 mil. According to the trading machine, you can't move Vucevic right now. You got Kobe White at 11 mil, so that gets me to 30. But does that make Portland happy? I mean, they might as well do a deal with someone else and be happy with a better package, in my opinion. So if I'm the Portland Trailblazers, I'm gonna want Zach LaVine involved in that trade. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I want Zach LaVine to land with me if I'm Portland, but it does mean that his piece is gonna be what I flipped somewhere else to get all the stuff I want. And of course, I'm gonna want players like Patrick Williams. Since you have high upside player like Patrick Williams, maybe I'm taking, a few other pieces on the Chicago Bulls. I'm definitely leaving that Lonzo Ball contract alone. You ain't gonna be able to get me to take that. And that's really what the biggest problem is for the Chicago Bulls, is Lonzo Ball. And y'all know I'm a Lonzo fan. Don't get it twisted. If Lonzo's 100% healthy, then we don't have this. This is not a problem. But the fact that he's a player that's not being moved, he's an injury guy right now. He's probably not gonna play it all this season. I really don't see anything good about having his contract on my books. Even if I'm bringing Dame to me, that's just $20-something million worth of players that Dame doesn't have to play with him in Chicago. So it kind of falls apart when you consider that. Now, if you could find a way to keep DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and Dame Lillard, then sure, you have a big three that makes you excited, but I don't think you're going to win a championship without the right bigs and the right defenders in place to complement that. You're just going to have a nice little regular season, depending on what you can put together, kind of be a Phoenix East. But I don't think you'll be as good as Phoenix, because you didn't put together the role players that ultimately make you good enough to make it happen. And you're probably going to have to give away a lot of that stuff in the Dame trade. So it's like you probably lose Patrick Williams, any young players that they have, guys that they just drafted. They probably lose all that. And I just don't know if that really elevates the Chicago Bulls to a place that makes Dame actually want to be there. He ended up protesting being there once he traded there. So I'm pretty sure he has a great deal of respect for a guy like DeMar DeRozan. I'm pretty sure he feels like in the right situation, he and DeMar DeRozan could do damage. But if Zach LaVine ain't a part of it, they're not special. They're just another. He might as well stay in Portland with Shaden and Simons. I honestly think that's a better team anyway. Right now, Portland looks like a better team depending on the type of trade that Chicago makes to get Dame. You might as well just stay there, because at the end of the day, you're still going to be in a guard jam kind of. Zach LaVine is not in your way because he's a shooting guard. DeMar DeRozan is not in your way because he's a small forward. But the style of play, those guys play best with the ball in their hand. One of the reasons why the Chicago Bulls are able to succeed when they are 100% healthy is the fact that Lonzo Ball is so unselfish and allows for so much playmaking off of himself. Dame doesn't have that gift. Zach doesn't have that gift. DeMar tends to be special in that way, but that's not what you want to force him to become in this situation. So I just don't know, first of all, if that really meshes properly, if you can pull it off. But even so, I don't know that you can pull it off even if you believed in it. You really need Lonzo Ball healthy, and you really need somebody to be willing to take him and see him as value in order to make this trade happen so that you can really get what you want out of that. And I just don't see it possible for Chicago. Granted, it could be as simple as Dame for Zach LaVine. But as I said, what are you bringing Dame to? What are you bringing him to? Now he's going to be playing with DeMar DeRozan, and that's it? Is it Vucevic? And that's supposed to make him more excited than being in Portland or being in Miami. I just don't think it does. He's not gonna want to be in cold Chicago on a worse team than he was in Portland. That's essentially what I see there in Chicago. I don't know what the solution is for Chicago. I personally think they should probably just blow it all the way up, trade everything, maybe facilitate the Dame trade with Zach LaVine, and get yourself back whatever you can in that regard. But to be honest with you, I don't see a path to where that makes a whole lot of sense either. When you consider they have a timeline that would make it so that they have to give away more than what they need to and would still be stuck to Lonzo contract, which would ultimately cap off their rebuild as well. So they're just in a weird spot. You would love for them to land a win now piece like Dame in place of Lonzo without having to give anything up. But that's in a perfect world. There's nothing perfect about this world in regards to the NBA trade situations. You're gonna have to match salary. You're gonna have to make it worthwhile to others, and I just don't see how they do that with the circumstances in place. So Chicago has a piece they can trade, but there's no way Dame's gonna land there and actually want to show up to training camp. There's no way. He's not gonna want to be a Bull. Do not waste your time, Chicago. I don't think you have a solution. I honestly don't. Blowing it up would make the most sense in most situations, but not with Lonzo's contract sitting there. You would do better running the season with DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and Vucevic, three guys who've made all-star teams in their careers. I think that's the best look. I really do. I think that's the best look for the team, because at the end of the day, if you're not finding what makes sense for Dame, then he's going to protest landing with you. And that's the bottom line. So, yeah, if I'm the Chicago Bulls GM, I'm probably just going to run the season. Just run it. You've brought a lot to you in the offseason. You've signed some really good pieces. Torrey Craig signed with them. It was a lot of stuff that they did that I thought was pretty good. In the grand scheme of things, they're trying to stay a win-now team with Lonzo's contract on board. By the end of their offseason, I was like, you know what? Chicago did all right. They're going to have a middle-of-the-pack season, but it's a lot better than anything else they can really do for themselves. Until Lonzo Ball is back on the floor healthy and proving he could play well, they're going to just be kind of stuck without really a good path to really get anything done. But so long as DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine are together, Vucevic is there, as long as they have that trio, they're not giving up anything that they have no business giving up to get better, ultimately find themselves not being good enough, and they're not resetting the situation that still has them stuck to Lonzo's contract so they can't get enough of what they need for their best rebuild. I say just go forward with DeMar DeRozan. Your best bet is to probably keep what you have and just running forward, and it's kind of a lost season, but it's not super lost because they have enough talent around them if they have a healthy season to feel like they can make moves. Now, they can't win a championship, but I think a good scenario for the Bulls is that if they have a healthy season with Vucevic this year, a healthy season with DeMar DeRozan, maybe they could play their value up even higher as a good team, and maybe they could trade like one of those guys for some reset pieces and then slowly start the rebuild. That's how I look at it. And you start the season off, have a DeMar DeRozan, hopefully he makes an all-star team this year. You know he's capable of that. And I'm trading him at his highest value mid-season. And that's how I would do it. Slow rebuild. Because at the end of the day, trying to blow it all up at once, you're not going to get the most for everything you have. Keeping everything, you're not good enough to make it make sense for all those guys. Trading for Dame Lillard is ultimately going to be the same. It's a lateral move for them at best. Probably not lateral, because you're going to have to give up more than what you want to get Dame. And Lonzo's still sitting there. So it's like, maybe you trade Vucevic. They just re-signed him. I don't know that was a bad thing. I don't think so, because they need assets. And so, I feel more confident about them with him on the team than without him right now. But maybe you could trade him for some pieces that you like a lot, in a slow rebuild. But that's really what it's about. It's slow, gradual rebuild for the Bulls. Something that allows them to have enough to feel good, but also enough to trade 1 for 3 pieces, that kind of thing, so that they can bring back stuff that can ascend in value. You know what I mean? I would be interested in KPJ if I were the Bulls. Why? Because if his legal situation works out, somehow they can have him on tab getting better on the basketball floor, and then they can have him at the point guard position to make up for Lonzo. When Lonzo comes back, they can slip him to the 2, trade DeMar or LaVine. One of those guys who would remain could play the 3, Patrick Williams still there getting better, who can move forward with KPJ in a couple years. You trade Zach LaVine when it makes sense to you to do so, if you choose to. And then you have those two moving forward as elevating in stature along with other players that you draft along the way. So it's like, that's how you have to do it with Chicago. And it's the only thing that makes sense, because otherwise, if they try to do anything at all, it's going to send them the other way. Just not quite good enough because they're stuck to that Lonzo contract. So that's kind of how I see it. Don't do nothing now. Make a move at the trade deadline and start the slow, gradual rebuild, acquiring everything you can that can get better, that can make more for itself on top of itself, if that makes any sense. So that's my plan for the Bulls, man. It's not an easy one. You're not going to win a championship doing that, but you're also not going to fall off a cliff and be stuck to a contract that's no good for you in the process of it. So yeah, I don't see them landing Dame. Maybe they move Zach for Dame, but I don't see Dame being pleased with that. And from there, I don't know where Zach would go, because he's not landing in Portland. Although I don't hate Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, and Zach LaVine. I don't hate that. BDL 44. I thank you all for watching.